Hello. My name's Laura, and I'm a designer. Just want to say thanks so much to Alex and the team for inviting me to speak tonight. And thanks for all of you to come to hear me speak. So tonight's talk is all about Kickstarter. So can I get a show of hands from everybody and just ask you, who's heard of Kickstarter before? So pretty much everyone, so that kind of helps me not to have to explain what that is. And is there anybody here who's planning on doing a Kickstarter at all? 1, 2 people. So hopefully me sharing my experience of Kickstarter won't put you off too much. So the reason why I wanted to speak about Kickstarter tonight is because I've recently finished a Kickstarter campaign called Design Giving, which enabled me to self-publish a magazine, which was the idea to celebrate 16 designers and makers who create with a thoughtful ethos. If you didn't actually see the campaign page, I just put a little kind of screen grab scroll. But yeah, just the actual Kickstarter page just showcased a video and showed the actual product of the publication itself, alongside images of the actual products and the products from the makers as well. So up until this point, when you're ready to put your project live, not many people see the kind of the before stage, or what you had to do to put your project live, nor the silly little things that you've got to do to get you through the kind of long working days of campaigning. And nor the effects of Kickstarter from your minimalistic kind of studio space into a really manic kind of product mess. So I've broken my talk tonight into 3 different sections, so to show you the kind of the before, the during, and the after Kickstarter. So I just want to start by saying being passionate about something is a really healthy obsession, but often you don't actually get to figure out what you're really passionate about, and it often comes from other people's observation what you're really passionate. One of my early kind of first passionate obsessions was Boyzone. Really embarrassingly photograph. That was me in Stephen Gately's house where he grew up. Me, my friends, my sister went to Dublin for a little tour, and his mum just let us in for a cup of tea. When I was at university, I studied a BA and a graphics in, a BA and a master's in graphic design. A lot of my work centered around kind of environmentally friendly graphics, and that was what I was really passionate about at uni. Trying to kind of look at different typefaces and different colors to be more environmentally friendly. When I left my master's, my tutor wrote this really long letter, but I won't read it all out. I just wanted to highlight the fact from his observation that a lot of my kind of focus and work was about making a difference in the way that we utilize materials. And this letter was about 10 years ago now. And I wish I'd almost paid so much more attention to it at the time, because I really didn't realize how much materials kind of affect my design work. So whenever I visit kind of different design degree shows or art shows, you always often find me touching literally everything. I love materials, and they very much kind of make me kind of choose something if it feels nice rather than looking nice. This was me getting really distracted by one of the stands. I was probably stood there for about 5-10 minutes, just really pleasing. That's not going forward. Oh. So a lot of the kind of design work that I produce now is very much driven by materials and the different print processes that I work or to create my work. I run a design studio called LJB Studio, and I have done for the past 4.5 years. And it's been slowly kind of developing into a bit more kind of material driven. This is just a small snippet of my work. So it's often quite minimalistic to be able to show the material as much as possible. And it kind of covers from quite small scale to quite large kind of typographic work as well. So another obsession of mine is dating, but not in the traditional sense. I often just put dates on a lot of my work, all my sketchbooks. I don't know why I do it. I think it's just another excuse to write, because I feel much more comfortable in writing about an idea than I do feel drawing about one. So when I was starting the Design Giving project, a lot of my work kind of surrounded about just words, lines, and formats and layouts. And that brings me nicely on to the first part of my story, which is where the idea for Design Giving came about. So it was in April 2012, very much after I'd visited a design show, very much like this one, and just left feeling like really inspired and really motivated and just wanted to work on a side project. And from my love of kind of process and designing, I came up with this phrase, which reads, where design thinking becomes thoughtful giving. And that was my way of really interpreting a process which was a bit more kind of thoughtful and considerate to people and the planet. The name Design Giving then came from the compression of that phrase. And like you do as a side project, you just start working on like logos and developing an idea. So a lot of the kind of initial developments was trying to work around, trying to take the word design in and almost trying to highlight the word design and giving from the same word. And almost noticing where they overlapped was the I and the V from the giving or the N from design. And then the Roman numeral number 4 became quite significant. So that kind of influenced a lot of the kind of logo developments as I went on. So I can't possibly show you all of the different iterations I did, but I started playing around with the different types of stroke weights and outlines to try and get the word design and giving, and then kind of stumbled across doing the double stroke. The double stroke of the logo type was working much better, so then playing around with the I and the V to get this kind of numeral working. Oops. And then the top left-hand corner, I then decided to kind of stick with the kind of double stroke of the logo type and noticed that it also had kind of 4 points, even though it was the Roman numeral for 4. And then when you rotate that for 45 degrees, I then created the kind of process for design giving, which then looked like this. And then the 4 sections were then made up of the design thinking, thoughtful, and giving, so it all kind of worked together. And then going back to the logo type on the right, just trying to work that simultaneously with the actual process. And then when I kind of laid them on top, realizing that the actual stroke of the letters kind of followed the process as well. And then that was the final logo type. So up until this point, all I had really was a name for a process. And the moment that it changed from a process into a publication was when I gave it a purpose. And when you give something a purpose, it really adds meaning and a value to something. And to be able to deliver your purpose through a process, you need people. So the next stage of my process was to look at the people and the designers that I wanted to celebrate into my publication. So over the years, when I've been working on this project and visiting different design shows, I've almost kind of had a collection of different designers that I really admired. So I simply sent them an email, kind of outlining the idea basically behind design giving. And amazingly, they all came back and said yes. So that was the final lineup of the 16 designers and makers. I kind of made a conscious decision that all the different designers specialized in a different material. So going from kind of like brass to textiles, wool, jasmonite, they all kind of had a different element that they could bring to inspire people. I always admire Lance Wyman, who for the past 5 decades has kind of redefined environmental graphics. And for his love of process, I very much admire the way he thinks as well. He amazingly agreed to write the foreword for the magazine. So he is amazingly in the publication as well. I guess the first phase of doing a Kickstarter was very much all about the planning. There was so much scheduling and planning, and at any one moment in time, I had 6 calendars on the go, simultaneously trying to work and schedule kind of the film for the Kickstarter alongside the actual design of the publication, and then contacting designers for their kind of contribution. So it was very much like constantly like checking where everything was up to. This is me in my studio. I very much work like this in a day-to-day basis, laying out different kind of papers and different material stocks. And this was kind of where I was in my element, really, because this is what I love to do. GF Smith kind of sponsored the publication, so I used all their paper stocks, going through trying to find the most environmentally friendly ones. Everything had to be numbered according to the files within my system, as well as on in physical copy. And then just try to kind of lay them all out so you could see them, how all the different colors were working together, and making sure that everything, I guess, was up to date. I also made a miniature copy, which was probably about this small, just so I could get a feel for how the pagination and the papers and the layout were working together, and also made a small mock-up of the actual papers as well. Just something, another obsession. So then all the layouts for the publication was also done by hand. It's how I like to work as a designer, and I don't think I could just go straight onto the computer. And then this was some of the final layouts of the paper, a lot which was almost kind of came from the process diagram as well, that kind of influenced how I designed. And then some of the kind of final page spreads. So up until this point, I very much had everything designed. So to be able to do the Kickstarter, you almost had to have everything produced to show backers what you were going to produce before you even got to produce it. So part 2. So when I made this slide, I thought, how simple does it look to actually put a Kickstarter together? Because all you need is a video, a description of your idea, photography of your product, and a few rewards. So naively thinking this was a really easy thing to do. One of the most memorable days that doing the Kickstarter was to produce the video. So I approached Ben Talon, who runs a podcast called Arrest All Mimics, and approached the idea that I wanted to do a video interview. And amazingly, he agreed and said yes. So we spent the day in the studio and also at Real Junk Food, just filming with Jake Powell of the way that I work and also doing the interview. If you've ever done a video, I applaud you, because it's so hard to actually dictate what you wanted to do. And Kickstarter videos can only be about 2 to 3 minutes. So it was, this was just some of my emails trying to figure out which sections I wanted to keep and which bits I wanted to cut out. I put a little bit of the Kickstarter video in here tonight, but obviously I won't play the whole video, but I'll just do a quick few minutes. And there is no sound, so there is the video and then also showing the products as well. So along with the video, I also produced the photography of the actual rewards. So on the most romantic day of the year, 14th of February, because I dated it, I remember taking these photographs just to almost get an idea of the kind of 4 different reward tiers that I wanted to produce with the publication. Working with an amazing photographer, Laura Hutchinson, who's based in Stockport. We produced these photographs of the final 4 design giving rewards. So alongside the actual design giving publication, I also asked the designers and makers in the magazine to be able to, if I was able to, sell their products on Kickstarter. So these were some of the products that were sold as well. And then as of 17th of May this year, the Kickstarter went live, at which point my energy level was very, very low. I guess at this point, you almost need to be able to run a campaign for 30 days. Your energy level needed to be way, way, way higher. So I was already feeling knackered. But one of the highlights throughout the campaign is that I put on an exhibition at Form Lifestyle Store, which was one of the best nights that I could never have kind of expected, really. The exhibition showcased 16 maker products in the downstairs space, and so many people came. So if you were there, thank you. It was an amazing night. 3 weeks prior to the event, I decided that I wanted to make the plinths myself, in amongst everything else that I was already doing. So as you do, draw a little plan of the actual scale of the plinths, depending on the product I was showcasing. Went to B&Q, got some woodcut, and then for the past 2 weeks, getting up at like 4 a.m., putting all the plinths together. So by that point, my energy was just decreasing because I was absolutely, tired. And also at this point, I was halfway into the Kickstarter campaign, and it wasn't necessarily 50% of the money either. So I was just kind of in panic mode and exhaustion mode. But amazingly, they all fitted in my car, and they all made it safely to form. And then they look like this. Alongside kind of energy, I don't think I could have prepared myself for the emotional kind of roller coaster that came with Kickstarter. You kind of went from really, within a space of like 10 minutes, I could have been really high, ecstatic, to really tearful, just due to kind of responses from like ringing people or just online social media stuff. It was just constant up and down. I guess the lowest points were the weekends because nobody was on their laptop. Well, not that I could have seen. So it was just a case of like panic, what do I do? And then still with kind of 2 days to go, I still needed like £1,000. And then amazingly, on the Friday, I managed to hit the target, and then this happened. Which, I totally did not expect it. Somehow I found the energy to do that. So it was my little graph, just in shock. And then the reality kicked in, the fact that I then now had to actually make this product. I've never produced a magazine before, so it was just a massive kind of challenge. It took about 2 weeks for the money to get transferred, so within that time, I pretty much spent it on numbers, just producing a spreadsheet. And I don't think this spreadsheet page really relates to what the actual math of it was. I calculated there was 39 columns, 262 rows, which practically makes 10,000 cells of information, which was a hell of a job just to do in itself. Just to give you an idea, the actual item list for just a magazine was 25 items. So after I'd populated this spreadsheet, I then had to go through and calculate how many kind of tissue paper sheets I needed, or how many boxes of which size, and how much ribbon. It was just, a logistical nightmare. And then the kind of fun bit of being able to kind of finalize all the different paper stocks, get different mock-ups made, choose all the kind of final colors to match the papers, and get some print tested where everything was starting to come and feel like it was real. And then the amazing kind of, every magazine came with the letterpress kind of tags from Lost Heritage, so spent days really kind of populating and putting those together. When all the kind of packaging came, putting all the boxes together, which in itself, after about 10, you think is really, really good. And then you get to like 200 and you're just absolutely sick of boxes, and just the fact that they make a lot of mess on your studio floor. And then all the magazines actually come with a note card, which was already kind of pre-drilled. And then I thought it would be an amazing idea to have the ribbon tying them together as well. But then didn't really think of the aftermath of how much time it would take to actually put these note cards together. So there was 200 note cards in the end, and I had to pre-mark where the envelopes were going to get punched, then hole punch them, then cut all the different ribbons, and every order was completely different. And then once I'd tied the bows, trying to figure out how to store them, because once I'd made them, I couldn't lay them on top of each other. So that was all of the ribbon that I cut for the magazines, and that's me measuring them up with my trousers. Another calculation, there was about 12 different varieties of ribbon, which on the face of it doesn't even look that many, but there was so many different variations. And then there was about 42,000 centimeters of ribbon, which is crazy. And then each of the magazines were numbered by hand. Each of them get a handwritten note written in the back to say thank you for everyone who pledged on Kickstarter. Then they all get wrapped in ribbon with the note card and tags, and then wrapped in recycled tissue paper. I also did so many gifts along the way, so I've got so many, but this is probably one of my favorites of just wrapping the ribbons, which is quite pleasing when you see it this fast, but when you're actually doing them. I also managed to sell 10 of the designer products from during Kickstarter, and there was about 30 odd pigs that I sold. So just trying to get them all ordered as well and packaged up and posted out to everybody. And then that was some of the final kind of boxes. And then the final part of the puzzle, or the fun bit, was the kind of just parceling up the boxes with gum tape. I wanted every part of the packaging to be environmentally friendly as much as possible, and gum tape was like way, way above on my list. But I didn't realize how much time it took, and that I needed a little gum machine, and then you could only do like 2 boxes until your hands got too sticky, and then you had to just go and wash them. So you could never do it fast. And there was about 14 different stages throughout the whole process of the production. But to kind of sum it up, I guess Kickstarter is an amazing platform because it enabled me to do a project that I was really passionate about, and to be able to raise the money to be able to produce the 500 magazines that were sold originally worldwide and still selling. It enabled me to put on an exhibition that I just didn't expect to do. I was able to support the designers and makers by not only kind of publicity in the magazine, but also support them by selling products directly, and also raise money for the Manchester Mine charity. It's also kind of taught me to just make the opportunities for yourself, and when you work with other people, anything is possible. And when you have a real purpose, you definitely can make a real difference to people's lives. So I just want to take the opportunity to say thanks so much to everyone who backed the Kickstarter and whose name is actually in the magazine. Also, I just want to say thanks to all the sponsors who believed in my idea in the first place, and Manchester Mind, who get 5% of the proceeds from each magazine. And I guess the biggest thing that I took from the whole experience of producing the magazine, and the most unexpected, was the fact that people kind of shared the opening experience of being able to actually receive the magazine, which I've got hundreds of these photographs, and it's amazing to see, and people share it on social media, and I think that is the best bit, when you can connect to your audience of people buying the magazine, and it's just so nice to actually see these photographs. So that is just almost like a small snippet. And that's it. Thank you.